Hey, we're live. Bobby B. Bobby from the Bronx.
Victor, thank you so much for having me, man. It's an honor to work with you, and I'm just really happy to be here to say my piece and have a nice discussion.
Well, if you guys don't know, Metropolitan is always putting on information and videos, articles, polls that are useful for the expat community to engage and staying true to our homeland back in the United States. And we see a certain sense of injustice occurring, if you don't know. President Biden, I think, has been kicking ass, and he's not getting anywhere near the level of credit he should be. And we have somebody here who is similar to me, as a background of being a former hardcore, but not right-wing Republican. And the thought of Donald Trump becoming president again has kicked us over to the other side. So we're here to discuss what?
So I just want to explain reasons why I think President Biden has been one of the best presidents in American history. And I do that both out of this fire in me to stop the Trump MAGA machine from taking over America, but also to enlighten people to information that they might not have about the record of the Biden-Harris administration. And I'd love to sit here and discuss it with you for as long as you'll have me.
Okay, and so for the avoidance of doubt, any opinions that we're making, they belong to us, not any political party or organization that we're using to try to help get Americans registered to vote. That's our mission, but we also want to communicate clearly what we're trying to do.
Of course. I volunteer for a soup kitchen. They don't have to accept my political beliefs. Anywhere I volunteer for, it doesn't have to own anything I have to say.
All right.
But it is my opinion and based on extensive research.
So where are you from? A little intro on you.
Sure. So I'm Rob. I'm from the Bronx with my wife. We moved here about 2 years ago for her job. And I've been, in love with Barcelona ever since. But I never lost that connection to America, especially not U.S. politics. And I've been rather, diligently informed about what's been going on pretty much on a daily basis from the U.S. government and in the U.S. Perspective. And yeah, I wrote this article about 8 arguments for why I think President Biden is one of the best presidents in U.S. history, and we can discuss it. We can discuss it today. So there's a range of topics here, from the economy to crime and public safety, healthcare, climate change, foreign policy, crisis management, the federal judiciary. I really go into a lot of detail here, and we'll be able to link that later. But for now, yeah, where would you like to start?
Let's just jump right into it. So crime is down.
So yeah, contrary to popular belief, because it's not necessarily covered in the news as often as when crime goes up. According to FBI statistics, violent crime is on a multi-year downward trend, about 3 years straight. Property crime went down about 7% last year. And I think President Biden's initiatives have a lot to do with that.
That's a heck of a coincidence. 3 years straight running.
Right.
What happened 3 years ago?
Yeah, right. The America chose sanity. That's what happened 3 years ago.
All right. Sorry, I interrupted you. Please.
No. Please. I'm honored to be here with you. I mean, I'm a little starstruck, actually. But no, in reality, the President Biden has passed multiple hate crimes legislations. They passed the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which is the first gun safety law in 30 years. It extends criminal background checks. It passes billions of dollars for state red flag laws and mental health services, as well as closes the boyfriend loophole, which was this horrific thing where there was a loophole in gun law where if you committed domestic violence but you weren't technically married to the person, you still got to enjoy gun rights, which is kind of insane. I don't think anyone that abuses their partner, you send to forfeit your right to.
Oh wow, didn't know this.
And at this point, we're very excited about the continuing trend, because statistics and history show that when your economy grows, crime goes down. People are making more money, people are gainfully employed, you see far less crime in general, and I'm excited to see where we can go with that.
All right, so people are saying, I've been hearing the crime was going up, and when in reality, the facts are very clear.
The facts, we care about the facts here, man. It's all it's about. It's easily researchable. The FBI does this every single year. You'll see spin from Republicans because they spin everything. But in reality, violent crime, murders, and property crime are on a downward trend.
I know you can read. That's my man, Biden.
What a State of the Union address, too, by the way. Really a lot of fire and vigor.
All right, so let's talk about the economy very quickly.
Oh, love it. Okay, so in our economy, what I'm very proud about for Biden is that we've seen historic stock market performance. We've seen the best jobs market for workers in the past 50 years, and that's going on about 26 straight months, which will lead to generational growth if we continue on that path. We've seen higher wages for everybody that have exceeded inflation for a while now, but the highest wage gains have been going to the lowest earners, which is what we've all wanted. I think everyone has said, I'd gladly pay an extra buck for a hamburger if the people working at McDonald's can make a living wage. We now are seeing it. We're seeing the lowest income workers earning the best income they ever have. And I'm sorry that your Grubhub order is going to be 10% more expensive, but people are finally making the living wages that we've always wanted, the people at the bottom of the economic.
Why do you think people, sometimes the message in the mainstream media is that they're beating up on Biden because Bidenomics doesn't seem to be trickling down to them?
I think that negativity sells, honestly. I think we have a whole problem with an overabundance of negativity, whether it's social media, regular media, and people just gravitate towards it. It gets clicks, it gets engagements, it gets subscriptions. When in reality, the Chips and Sciences Act leads to $100 billion in industrial development and jobs. It's not as grabby. It's not as like when a factory leaves a state or a county or an area, it gets a lot of headlines. When we're building brand new ones, it's just not as popular. I just think they have a more of a negativity drive. I think the business model is leading the U.S. Politics leading in that direction.
Yeah, when I watch some of the more conservative news networks, I hear a lot of beating up on Biden, and it's not working, except that if the shoe were on the other foot, they would be dying for the kind of metrics that Biden has been generating. And he doesn't do these long circle victory laps that the Trump. If he went to the bathroom without pissing outside the toilet, they'd be all up in arms and thrilled with it. And here we have the Democrats need to do a better job in messaging the successes, the victories, the stuff that really matters but doesn't get into the media.
Exactly. And that's why I'm here. That's why I was so passionate about writing this article, why I'm so happy that you allowed me to do this. It's a good message that we're running on. We're making big differences in a lot of people's lives.
All right. Talk about big differences in people's lives. Federal judges.
Oh, great. That's my favorite, federal judges. So Joe Biden right now is up to, I believe, 185 confirmed federal judges.
Moly, I didn't know that.
185 confirmed federal judges by the Senate at this point, including superstar Ketanji Brown Jackson. I mean, one of the greatest legal minds of our generation. Just an absolute home run of a SCOTUS justice. And he's climbing up that ladder. Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell got about 220 federal judges in there. He has the highest ranked unqualified judges under Trump. That's actually a thing. They rank the judges that get appointed federally, and he has the highest amount of unqualified ones. And we know Cannon over in Florida, how that whole trial is going right now. But Joe Biden has committed to the best possible person for the job. And it always, in my opinion, I feel we've gone a couple hundred years without a diversification effort necessary in the federal courts. Joe Biden is appointing superstars, rock solid legal minds of all backgrounds, of all backgrounds and ethnicities. And I think it's a great thing. I think the federal court system is desperate for these perspectives. It doesn't all have to be white dudes like us, like me.
Hey, remind me, how many women and minorities were appointed under
Donald Trump? A minuscule number, a single-digit percentage. I don't have the exact stats, but I can get it to you. It was an embarrassment. I mean, you saw the Trump priorities, and then you saw the Biden administration priorities. He's created a federal judiciary that looks more like America. America's a very diverse country. It's why we're a superpower.
And it's couldn't be more important than we're talking about activist judges who basically during when they were trying to get them past the Senate, the confirmations, they said one thing and then immediately they come out and completely betray what they were saying during the confirmation process.
Some of these judges have gone super radical. I mean, the Dobbs decision was egregious. I think, in my personal opinion, I think you have Trump judges banned mifepristone, the abortion bill, which has been safe for decades. And by just sheer radicalism, by sheer personal opinion, that's not interpreting the law. That's being an activist judge, as you said. And I think that problem is way more of a Republican problem in this day and age. I think the Biden administration is focused on super qualified people. I'm also personally excited that he set the record for public defenders being appointed to the federal judge. ships, because it's another critical perspective. It's another critical perspective. 66% of his judges have been women or members of ethnic minority groups in America. And to circle back to that point, it's a critical perspective that our federal court system has been lacking for 200 years. I think it's going to pay dividends. I really do.
Why do you know this stuff, man?
Because I'm kind of like a nerd. I'm like a politics nerd. I'm pretty obsessed with all this stuff. I kind of want to do this. I feel like I have a skill set. I'm scared to death of this camera right now, but I definitely, yeah, sorry, look at me skating away. But I followed Biden. Biden converted me, frankly. I grew up as I've been a lot of different ideologies. I was a former Republican, as I told you, for several years. I did the dance with libertarianism. It's a little embarrassing, but I did that for a little while. And Biden brought me back to a place of sanity. I mean, the platform is excellent. His successes, I didn't think for most of my formative and adult years that the federal government could work. I had that drilled into my head that the federal government can't do a damn thing for you. And all this man has done is historic thing after historic thing. I mean, so many historic laws. Can't even count them all. I did an 8-page article about this, and I still had to have a whole other page.
Read it in Metropolitan.
Read in Metropolitan. Thank you so much. I can't believe you saying that. And then I had to do eight more honorable mentions, because he's accomplished so much, both in executive orders, legislatively, and obviously with the judiciary. I think the judiciary is going to be the thing that matters the most. If we can balance those Trump, Mitch McConnell judges with sane, rational, center-left, center judges, I think it's going to be a really, really good thing. You won't get some of these ludicrous rulings that we've seen in some of these red states.
Okay. And what other subject is really important that you want to cover today?
So I think the number one thing that people should understand is that under President Biden, America has the lowest uninsured rate in U.S. history. Let me read that again. The lowest uninsured rate in U.S. history. I know personally what the lack of health insurance in America has, the problems that causes for people, the devastation, just the economic catastrophes that this kind of thing can cause. And because Joe Biden has doubled down on the Affordable Care Act, we have 9 million more Americans with health insurance than we did when Trump was president. And I think it's just a critical thing. He's also attacked junk fee, surprise medical billing, these junk insurance plans that they get away with, where it covers nothing, essentially. You're paying, it's cheap every month, but then it covers basically nothing. And he's also tackled applying medical debt to your credit score. So that these three major things on top of that actually are going to make a big difference in your life.
Well, I didn't know about the medical debt on your credit score.
Yep, he's done that as well. And then, of course, you've heard of the for the veterans, the PACT Act for the veterans.
Yeah.
So that was a bipartisan effort. It was pushed by many, many veterans groups to cover a whole series of battle and other related illnesses. Agent Orange was a specific thing. Burn pits, like Biden cares very much about that because he believes his son died because of these complications. And it adds billions of dollars to build more VAs, which we need. My grandfather was a veteran. I was in charge of end-of-life care for him. We did it all through the VA. A lot of good people, but they are overwhelmed. The doctors and the nurses and the staffs and all our VAs, they've been overwhelmed. And this act is going to go a long, long way towards helping very good people that care for our veterans, and our veterans, which, as Biden says, I think our duty to them is sacred. They put their lives on the line. They fight for us. They have to be taken care of. They can't be loopholed out. It breaks my heart to hear anything like that, and I'm very excited to see that that's actually
this focus on making sure that the veterans are taken care of versus calling them suckers for going to fight a war to protect our way of life, I think is one of the most glaring contrast between the two candidates we're going to see. Okay, so another subject.
Sure.
What is your prediction on some of the current legal stuff that's going on?
For Donald?
For the Donald, yeah.
For the sneaker salesman?
You got any golden shoes?
No, not me. I'm not cool enough to wear golden Trump shoes. Maybe I'll do a GoFundMe or something. To go in that, nobody's arguing that he's innocent. We're not hearing, I'm innocent of these crimes. What we're hearing is a bunch of Republican spin. This modern Republican Party, as Biden says, is not your grandfather's party. It's not the party I was in. It's not the party you were in.
Nope.
It's such a mutation that they're going to excuse some of the most horrible things ever. The man was found liable for rape. The man was found liable for defamation. He owes $500 million. That's not even the criminal issues.
Yeah.
He has dozens of more lawsuits pending for January 6th and other shady business practices. But I think we're not going to see the federal cases before the election. I think he's gamed the system enough with SCOTUS, this ridiculous, the president can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it philosophy of
and we need to wait months for a decision on that.
So I don't think that's going to happen. What will happen likely is this Manhattan case, the Stormy Daniels hush money case, where he essentially cheated on his wife, what it appears to be, he cheated on his wife with a porn star while she was nursing their kid and paid her off to stay silent. Well, he broke a bunch of laws doing that. And he delayed the investigations of those laws as he was president. He made them go to appeals courts and SCOTUS, and it took years to finally have this drop down. So it's not like a conspiracy. The man delayed every bit of legal accountability until it all just fell on top of his lap at once. But again, nobody's saying, he's not arguing he's innocent. He's arguing, I have the documents. They're my documents. They're my stolen nuclear secrets. You know, just not a real quote, but yeah, it's just, the contrast couldn't be more clear. We have a genuine good man who's trying to do good. You can argue about if he's doing enough good. You can argue about if he's got the wrong ideas. But you can't argue that he's not a decent man trying to do the best for America and the world versus one of the most rotten, nasty people, an aspiring autocrat, by my interpretation, that America will not be anywhere near the same. The world will not be the same if we don't hold this White House in this election. I genuinely believe it's the most important election. It's definitely in my life and possibly in the history of America.
Well, that's a pretty profound way to wrap it up. Without tipping our hat too much, we are going to have another, it's going to be a series that we're talking about reasons why people should be able to confidently and accurately discern between our current president and the candidate. And so the next round, we're going to have some, what do you call, honorable mentions.
Yes,
you want to give a little peek to that?
Sure. So there's a bunch of honorable mentions I have here on top of the 8 main topics that we've discussed. We'll follow up with that. But some of them include that Joe Biden's been to 2 war zones. He reunited 600 migrant families. If you remember, the Trump administration separated families on purpose as a deterrent to illegal immigration. Joe Biden has reunited 600 of them. Joe Biden has saved the United States Postal Service from insolvency. The Republican Party entered a sort of a death pill to the United States Postal Service, requiring them to pre-fund pension obligations, which nobody ever does. That's not a practice. Yeah. And it made them appear on paper to be insolvent. And it was getting them on the path because that's not a business practice. If you had to pre-fund every single person's pension obligation, any business would go bankrupt. So changing that with the increase in funding, I think a lot of people like the USPS, and also it's in the Constitution. If you're a constitutional conservative, the United States Postal Service is right there. He's also my favorite part about the American Rescue Plan was that it was able to cut child poverty in half. On the time that the American Rescue Plan was being implemented over those period of what it was about almost a year, the statistics verify this. We were able to cut child poverty in half, and I think we should go right back to that. Joe Biden agrees. He advocated a bunch of positions very similar to that. And then my favorite is that he's actually been far more reasonable on the issues of cannabis, which is a very big issue in the states right now as the states continue to legalize. And he's issued pardons. He's funded He's funded medical research, and he's begun an administrative process to bring it off of Schedule 1 with crack, heroin, crystal meth, and down to a much more reasonable discussion that we can, somewhere closer to beer. Which is what we do. So I don't want to put you out on a position, but according to people my age and younger, and doctors and the medical research, it's a very important thing, and it's an economic engine that we're not taking advantage of. If you can have a bar on every block, why not a cannabis distributor? And then the last thing is that he's the premier advocate of representative democracy. Biden is that worldwide. Biden is a rock solid advocate of representative democracy. And while you have autocrats all over the world trying to expand their reach and trying to change the world towards their vision of it, representative democracy is the only way, and he's a champion of that. Really warms my heart.
On that point, the importance of expats voting.
Oh, yeah.
Only about 10% of expats around the world actually vote in the U.S. electoral process. And if the expats were to be asked, who is better for you when you are living abroad but still tied with your family, with your Social Security, with your rights that you have in the United States, who's a better president for you, whether it's the current one or the previous one, and the relationships that countries have with the United States? I don't think that it's a no-brainer that the rest of the world, by and large, is much happier with our current president. And I think we should argue to stay the course instead of going back to something, not something that we don't know. It's something that we know, and it really destroyed the relationships with the countries around the world.
One guy expanded NATO, the other guy wants to leave NATO. One guy, our current President Biden, has reaffirmed our commitments to our allies throughout the world and has historically expanded communications with countries in the Pacific, which is a very huge deal. And the other guy wants this sort of authoritarian, vain, isolationist, vain view of the world that just doesn't make any sense. Not economically, not morally, not historically. We're all in the world together. We have a global economy. I want a sane, rational, good person running the U.S. economy, the U.S. country, and not a radical, malicious lunatic. Is that, in my opinion?
Okay. Well, you're making me laugh.
Thank you.
On that note, let's go ahead and leave it for now.
Sounds good.
We'll have a discussion. Please check out Bobby from the Bronx's article, and we're going to put it right down here in the text when we can.
Thank you so much.
And also, stay tuned. Make sure you register to vote. Super important.
Your Board of Elections, where you're at home, where your last American address is the fastest way. Also, I believe there's a website, votefromabroad.com, which also helps expats as well. So there's two different ways, and it's really super important.
And if you're kind of a GOP or a Republican and you're not too thrilled with the messages that we're sending right now, we still want your vote. So vote, and
I can sell them too. Yeah, I can sell them too. Yeah, there's a reason for people to vote for Biden that appeals to, if you care about any issues, I can have a convincing conversation, I feel like.
Well, maybe the next time we'll talk about why Republicans should listen and vote for Trump. I mean, vote for Biden.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you want, you can even see why would they vote for Trump? Because I want to understand that thinking.
I think we can do that. That'd be great.
All right. Well, thanks.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bobby and V, talk to you soon.
Adios. Wow, that's fun.
Yeah.